office. Can you describe for me or tell me why police allegedly used a battering ram to knock down the door of Dawn Castaneda's home, and describe, if you would, the conditions inside the residence that officers found?
To start with, when we execute a search warrant at a residence, we don't know who is inside. So taking precautions, we will go to the door, we will knock, we will announce. In this case, we knocked once, thinking that somebody might come to the door. They heard nothing inside. They knocked, announced police officers, search warrant. Still, nobody came to the door after about 20 seconds had gone by. The door was locked. They used a ram to hit the door handle. It popped the door handle in and turned it sideways, allowing the door to open up. The door was not knocked down. It wasn't taken off the hinges. The only damage to the door was the doorknob and the striker plate that's on the frame. The ram wasn't put through the door. We used it enough just to make entry. We made entry, and when we made entry, we found 4 juveniles in the house. It was a trailer. 3 were in the front room, which includes a kitchen and living room, and 1 was in the back room. They appeared as if they had just woken up out of a sleep. They were all within their beds. We identified ourselves as police officers as we went in and secured the residence. We explained why we were there. We did ask them to put their hands up because it was dark inside. We had no idea who we were confronting. Normal police protocol.
Were guns drawn?
Guns were out, like we do in any search warrant, but they weren't pointed at anybody. They carry them at a low ready and go into the house and secure the house, meaning making it safe that there isn't anybody inside that's going to cause them any harm. Then they holster their weapons, and then they end up talking with the folks that are inside. The condition of the home that we found was deplorable. There was animal feces all over the floor. There wasn't a clean dish to be had in the house. There were gnats and flies swarming over top of the beds and the children. There was no water or gas. There was exposed sewer lines. There was the toilet was overflowing with feces into the room. It was just deplorable, to the point where, my officers were trying to get the kids out of the house into some fresh air, and because of the conditions, we notified Child Protective Services and started an investigation on child neglect.
Were there any adults in the residence when you got there?
There were not.
Can you say what the oldest juvenile was?
I believe the ages ranged from 7 to 17.
Do you know the status with Child Protective Services, Chief, at this moment?
I know that they removed the children from the house, turned them over to a family relative, and gave instructions that they were not to return back to the trailer until the trailer was livable.
How did the children react to the police officers? Were they frightened? Were they crying? Did they seem to feel threatened?
Not at all. In fact, it appeared that they just woke up from a sleep.
What time was it, Chief?
9:30 in the morning. And they were all within their beds, and the knocking and or the forcing open of the door may have woken them up. The person in the back bedroom was still sleeping. The 3 that were in the front bedroom were awake, but they were still in their beds.
What day of the week was this?
I can tell you the date was the 13th.
Was it like a weekday or a weekend? Well.
Somebody tell me what day the 13th was, and I'll tell you. Wednesday.
So kids were not in school, or was this fall break?
The kids were not in school.
Shouldn't they have been?
You know, that's something that Child Protective Service will be looking into.
Do you know where the parents were, Chief?
We did find the parents afterwards, and we made a traffic stop on them in the Albertsons parking lot, where we made our arrests and found some more property in the car. Now, when we conducted the search warrant in the house, we found property, and in fact, in talking with the children, one of the daughters stated that one of the iPods that was purchased by city funds with the city credit card was given to her as a Christmas gift at Christmas time.
Were the Castanedas under surveillance prior to the search warrant?
Yes, we were looking for them to try to determine where they were at, and we noticed that they were at an address on North Granite Street in an office building, and we weren't going to go into the office building to make the arrest.
So really, did the officers know beforehand, before the carrying out the search warrant, that the parents went in there?
They knew that their car was at this office building, but I don't believe that they knew that both parents were not there. They had no idea who was in the house.
Because this wasn't like a super critical issue, life and death issue, when nobody answered, why didn't you just come back an hour later or something like that?
Because when we have a court order to carry out an act, we only have a certain amount of time to do that. We had the warrant for a day and a half, possibly 2 days prior. We didn't serve it because, honestly, we had so many other things going on in the city, we didn't have the manpower to serve it. So on Wednesday, when we had enough manpower to serve it, we went out to serve that warrant. We have 5 days to serve a search warrant. When you're looking for items on a search warrant, when people know that you have a search warrant, that evidence can be destroyed, moved, transferred, and for us to get the evidence that we need for our case, we have to execute that search warrant and try to seize that property. And we did, and we found the property.
Did you find anything else in the home besides the condition of the home that you were concerned about? Any kind of drug paraphernalia, any kind of other material that might have been, that you might have thought was stolen, that was not part of your search warrant, that you could not get?
You know, things that when we go into a house for a search warrant, our scope is narrowly focused to what's in the search warrant. That's what they were after. That's what they focused on. I don't believe there was any other items that we might have thought were stolen. You know, I can't answer that. But we focused on what was on the search warrant, and because of the condition of the house and the children and the bugs and feces and so on, we had to take some direct action because that was another crime that was occurring in their midst.
Have you received, do you know if you've received requests for the incident report? A few, or?
Many people have looked at the incident report. It is available to anybody to look at. It's a public record, and there's a copy of those reports in the press file for you.
Are there additional charges, criminal charges, that could follow from what the officers found that day?
Yes, that is correct.
How many officers served the search warrant?
I would say normally we would bring a team of 6 or 7 people.
Okay.
Had there been any prior trouble at the Castaneda residence, any complaints about the care of the children or squalid conditions?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that information.
How normal or usual is it for you to get a search warrant for, $6,000 of property?
Well, it's a felony offense, and whenever we have a felony offense, we take the offense seriously, and we will always get a search warrant when we're looking for the property if we can't find it any other way.
Was Mrs. Castaneda given an opportunity to bring back city material and any property of the city back before the search warrant was served?
Yes. The Castanedas were sent a letter, delivered a letter on October 4th, indicating that the city wanted their property back. On October 6th, Dawn Castaneda came to the city and dropped off the items that she said that she had that were remaining of the city's. Then we served the warrant on the 13th, and we found the property that we were looking for through the records that we were given of fraudulent uses to her credit card and to McFinning's credit card.
Had Charity turned in her credit card?
I don't know that.
What is her status right now? Is she still in jail, or what's the status?
No, she bonded out of jail, and then because the county attorney's office is reviewing the charges, and charges weren't filed within 72 hours, it's now in the Mojave County Attorney's Office hand.
The statement refers to the additional charges that may be pending in this case. Can you tell me what that would be?
Possibly child neglect for the horrific conditions that were inside the residence with the children being present, and the harmful condition that it put the children in. Other charges may stem out of the investigation of additional fraudulent use to credit cards, and tampering with computers, computer tampering.
So are you saying that there may be more than the $6,000 worth of goods that has not been located yet?
What we have right now to charge the case is the $6,000 worth of recovered property. We are still looking into other things that are still under investigation.